A prestigious equestrian center plans to euthanize a blind horse deemed worthless for competition, until a compassionate 5-year-old girl's pure heart changes everything. Against all odds, she transforms this broken spirit into an inspiring symbol of hope. But what happens next will touch hearts around the world. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Nestled in the pristine countryside of Vermont, where rolling meadows stretched endlessly beneath crystal-clear skies, stood the renowned Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy. The facility's polished marble entrance and pristine white fences spoke of excellence, privilege, and uncompromising standards. Victoria Sterling, the Academy's founder and director, had built her reputation on producing champions, her methods as cold and calculating as the steel nameplate that adorned her mahogany office door. This particular morning, as autumn leaves danced on the crisp breeze, Victoria sat behind her imposing desk, her steel-grey hair pulled into a severe bun that matched her rigid demeanor. Before her lay the medical report about Starlight, their most promising mare's newborn foal. Her manicured fingers drummed against the thick paper as she addressed Dr. James Morrison, the facility's head veterinarian. "A congenital condition, you say?" Victoria's voice carried the sharp edge of disappointment. "Completely blind from birth." Dr. Morrison nodded solemnly, his weathered face reflecting years of experience with both animals and difficult conversations. "Yes, Miss Sterling. The foal's optic nerves never developed properly. There's no treatment, no cure." Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line as she gazed through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the sprawling training grounds below. Starlight had been their premier breeding mare, her bloodline worth millions. This foal was supposed to be their next champion, not a liability. "The mare's already showing signs of distress," Dr. Morrison continued, his voice gentle but professional. "She seems to sense something's wrong with her foal. It's affecting her recovery." Victoria stood abruptly, her designer riding boots clicking against the hardwood floor as she paced. "We can't afford to compromise Starlight's well-being. She's too valuable." Her voice carried the cold efficiency of someone accustomed to making difficult business decisions. "Schedule the euthanasia for tomorrow morning. The sooner we handle this, the better." Dr. Morrison's face fell slightly, but he knew better than to argue. In the high-stakes world of professional equestrian sports, sentiment had no place. Still, he couldn't help but think of the tiny foal, barely 2 days old, already condemned simply for being different. What neither of them knew was that at that very moment, a small figure in rainbow rubber boots was skipping down the gravel path toward the stables. 5-year-old Lucy Bennett, daughter of Sarah Bennett, the Academy's new stable manager, carried a tiny pink backpack and wore pigtails tied with butterfly ribbons. Her innocent presence was about to challenge everything Victoria Sterling believed about worth and potential. Sarah had recently accepted the position at Sterling Brooks, moving from their modest farm in Kansas after Lucy's father passed away. The job offered a fresh start, and Sarah hoped the change of scenery would help heal their wounds. Lucy, despite her young age, had shown an extraordinary connection with animals, especially horses. It was as if she could sense their emotions, understand their fears, and connect with them on a level that often left adults speechless. As Lucy approached the stable where Starlight and her foal were kept, She heard the hushed whispers of stable hands discussing the foal's fate. Though young, Lucy had an uncanny ability to understand more than adults gave her credit for. She pressed herself against the stable wall, her heart pounding as she listened to words like "put down" and "tomorrow morning." Inside the stable, the newborn foal lay curled beside its mother, its coat a stunning shade of silver that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. Unlike other newborn foals, this one's eyes didn't track movement or react to shadows. Yet there was something special about the way it turned its head toward sounds, the way it nuzzled against its mother with complete trust. Lucy slipped into the stable, her small feet barely making a sound on the hay-strewn floor. She approached the pen carefully, remembering her mother's lessons about being gentle around new mothers and their babies. Starlight raised her head, normally protective of her foal, but something about Lucy's presence seemed to soothe her. "Hello, beautiful baby," Lucy whispered, her voice carrying the pure, unconditional love that only a child could offer. "I'm Lucy, and I'm going to be your friend." The foal's ears pricked forward at the sound of her voice, and despite its blindness it struggled to stand on wobbling legs, drawn to the warmth and kindness in Lucy's words. Lucy reached through the bars, her tiny hand gentle as she stroked the foal's soft muzzle. "You're perfect just the way you are," she continued, unaware that her words challenged every principle Victoria Sterling lived by. Different isn't bad. Different is special. Sarah found her daughter there an hour later, sitting cross-legged by the pen, telling stories to the blind foal who had rested its head as close to her as possible through the bars. The sight brought tears to her eyes. Lucy hadn't spoken this much or smiled this brightly since losing her father. "Lucy, sweetheart," Sarah called softly, not wanting to break the magical moment. "It's time for dinner." "Mama!" Lucy jumped up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Did you see the baby? It's so beautiful, and it listens to my stories better than anyone else." Sarah felt her heart clench, knowing what was scheduled for the following morning. "Lucy, honey, we should go. They're going to hurt it, aren't they?" Lucy's voice suddenly carried a wisdom beyond her years. "I heard them talking. They think it's broken because it can't see. But it's not broken, Mama. It just sees with its heart instead of its eyes." Sarah knelt beside her daughter, struck by the profound truth in her simple words. She thought about her own journey, about the courage it had taken to start over after losing her husband. Sometimes the biggest acts of bravery came from the smallest hearts. "What can we do, Mama?" Lucy's eyes filled with tears. "We have to help it." Sarah pulled her daughter close, her mind racing. As the new stable manager, she was in no position to challenge Victoria Sterling's decisions. Yet looking at her daughter's determined face, she knew they had to try. Sometimes the right thing to do was also the hardest. "First," Sarah said, standing up and straightening her shoulders, "we need to show Miss Sterling that this foal deserves a chance." Lucy nodded solemnly, her small face set with determination. "Can I stay with it tonight? Please? It shouldn't be alone." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. She helped Lucy set up a small camping chair near the pen, brought her dinner in a lunchbox, and wrapped her in a warm blanket. As the sun set and the stable grew quiet, Lucy's clear voice could be heard singing lullabies to the foal, her small hand reaching through the bars to offer comfort. Unknown to them, Victoria Sterling had returned to the stable for a final inspection. She paused in the shadows, struck by the scene before her. The condemned foal, which had been restless and disoriented earlier, was now calm, its head pressed against the bars near Lucy's hand. The child's voice, singing about courage and friendship, echoed through the stable with a purity that made Victoria's carefully constructed walls waver. For the first time in decades, Victoria Sterling felt uncertainty creep into her heart. She watched as Lucy shared her dinner with the foal, offering tiny pieces of apple through the bars, explaining how each one was a promise of friendship. The child's unwavering belief in the foal's worth challenged everything Victoria had built her empire upon. As night fell completely, Sarah returned with more blankets, intending to stay with her daughter. She found Lucy had fallen asleep, her small hand still reaching through the bars, the foal sleeping as close to her as possible. The sight was a powerful testament to the connection between them, a bond that transcended conventional notions of value and worth. Victoria stepped from the shadows, startling Sarah. But before the stable manager could apologize or explain, Victoria raised her hand for silence. She stood for a long moment, observing the peaceful scene before her. Then, without a word, she turned and walked away, her usually confident stride slightly hesitant. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The night passed. Slowly, stars wheeling overhead as Lucy slept beside the foal she was determined to save. Her dreams were filled with images of running through meadows with her new friend, showing the world that different kinds of strength existed, some visible to the eye, others visible only to the heart. As dawn approached, Dr. Morrison arrived, early, his heart heavy with the task ahead, but he found Victoria Sterling already at the stable, watching Lucy, who had woken and was once again telling stories to the foal. "Dr. Morrison," Victoria said, her voice carrying an emotion he had never heard before, "I believe we need to reassess our position on this matter." The sun rose over Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy, painting the sky in colors of hope. Something had shifted in the night, a change brought about not by power or money, but by the pure love of a child who saw with her heart instead of her eyes. And this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would challenge perceptions, touch hearts, and prove that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the smallest voices, and the most valuable lessons about worth and potential can be learned from those who see the world differently. The morning that was meant to bring darkness instead ushered in rays of unexpected hope at Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy. Victoria Sterling's decision to postpone the foal's euthanasia sent ripples through the facility, though no one dared question what had prompted this uncharacteristic display of mercy. Lucy arrived early that morning, practically dragging her mother to the stables before sunrise. Her small backpack was stuffed with carrots, apples, and a worn copy of The Little Engine That Could, her favorite story about never giving up. As they approached the stable, they found Dr. Morrison deep in conversation with Victoria Sterling. "Miss Sterling," Sarah began hesitantly, "about last night." Victoria raised her hand, her usual stern expression softened by something that almost resembled uncertainty. "Mrs. Bennet, your daughter has brought something to my attention." She glanced at Lucy, who had already made her way to the foal's pen. "Dr. Morrison will conduct a thorough examination to assess the foal's overall health and capabilities." Lucy, oblivious to the adult's conversation, was already whispering to her silver friend. "I brought you presents," she announced, pulling out a carrot. "And guess what? I named you Stargazer, because even though you can't see the stars, you can feel their magic, just like me." Dr. Morrison couldn't help but smile as he watched Lucy interact with the foal. Her presence had a remarkable effect on both mother and baby. Starlight, usually anxious around strangers, remained calm as Lucy chattered away, and the foal, now named Stargazer, showed an unprecedented awareness of its surroundings despite its blindness. The examination revealed something extraordinary. While Stargazer was indeed completely blind, his other senses were remarkably acute. He tracked sounds with precise accuracy, and his response to touch and vibration was exceptional. Dr. Morrison documented everything, from the way Stargazer navigated his pen using sound echoes to his ability to recognize different people by their footsteps. "Ms. Sterling," Dr. Morrison reported, "while the blindness is permanent, this foal demonstrates remarkable adaptive capabilities. His other senses appear to be compensating in fascinating ways." Victoria watched as Lucy guided Stargazer around his pen, her high-pitched voice providing constant orientation. The foal followed her sound perfectly, adjusting his movements with surprising grace. It was a display that challenged everything Victoria had believed about perfection and potential. "Mrs. Bennet," Victoria addressed Sarah, her voice carrying authority despite her inner conflict. "Your daughter seems to have a unique connection with this foal. However, caring for a blind horse requires extensive knowledge, resources, and dedication. It's not a responsibility to be taken lightly." Sarah straightened her shoulders, years of running her own farm evident in her posture. "Ms. Sterling, before coming here, we had a small farm in Kansas. It wasn't prestigious like Sterling Brooks, but it taught us that value isn't always measured in ribbons and trophies. Lucy may be young, but she understands dedication better than most adults I know." To demonstrate her point, Sarah nodded toward her daughter. Lucy had created a game, tapping different spots around the pen and rewarding Stargazer with tiny apple pieces when he successfully moved toward the sound. The foal was learning, adapting, proving with each careful step that limitations didn't define potential. "Very well," Victoria conceded, though her tone suggested this was a temporary arrangement. "The foal can stay under several conditions. First, Dr. Morrison will oversee its development and health. Second, you and Lucy will be directly responsible for its care, but this cannot interfere with your regular duties, Mrs. Bennet. And finally, if at any point this experiment proves too challenging or dangerous, we will reassess the situation." Lucy, hearing only that Stargazer could stay, launched into an impromptu dance of joy, her pigtails bouncing as she celebrated. The foal, sensing her excitement, pranced in place, creating a scene so pure it brought smiles to even the most hardened, stable hands. As Victoria walked away, Dr. Morrison lingered, watching Lucy work with Stargazer. "You know," he said thoughtfully to Sarah, "in all my years of veterinary medicine, I've never seen anything quite like this. Your daughter, she doesn't see limitations, does she?" Sarah shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. "After we lost her father, Lucy stopped talking for a while. But she never stopped believing in magic, in possibility. She has her father's heart, seeing beauty where others see brokenness. Indeed, the next few days established a new routine at Sterling Brooks. Lucy arrived each morning before her mother's shift, her backpack always full of treats and treasures for Stargazer. She read him stories, sang songs, and most importantly, began teaching him to navigate his world through sound and touch. Lucy's methods, while unconventional, showed remarkable results. She tied small bells to her boots, teaching Stargazer to follow the sound. She created texture paths in his pen, helping him understand different surfaces. When he seemed uncertain, she would sit with him, her small hand on his neck, whispering encouragement until his fear subsided. "See?" she would tell anyone who would listen. "Stargazer's not broken. He just needs different ways to learn. Like how Mama says I learn better when she makes the alphabet into a song." As word of the blind foal and his tiny trainer spread through the equestrian community. Some visitors came to scoff, others out of curiosity, but most left touched by the sight of a 5-year-old girl teaching profound lessons about persistence and unconditional love. One afternoon, as Lucy worked with Stargazer in the training pen, a group of potential clients visited Sterling Brooks. Among them was Marcus Chen, a renowned expert in equine therapy. He watched, fascinated, as Lucy guided Stargazer through a series of exercises she had created. "Amazing," Marcus commented to Victoria, who had been showing the group around. "She's instinctively using many principles we apply in therapeutic riding programs. The sound association, the texture discrimination, she's teaching that foal to create a mental map of his environment." Victoria, who had been struggling to justify her decision to keep Stargazer, found herself seeing the situation in a new light. Perhaps there was value here that couldn't be measured in competition scores or breeding potential. As the days passed, Stargazer's progress became undeniable. He learned to navigate his pen with confidence, responding to voice commands and sound cues with increasing precision. Lucy's presence became a catalyst for change throughout Sterling Brooks. Other riders began stopping by to watch them work, touched by the little girl's unwavering dedication. One evening, as Sarah prepared to take Lucy home, they found an unexpected delivery at the stable, a box full of specialized training equipment designed for blind horses. The note attached simply read, "For those who see with their hearts, Marcus Chen." The equipment included textured markers, sound-making devices, and special halters designed to help blind horses navigate. Lucy was ecstatic, immediately wanting to show everything to Stargazer. Her enthusiasm was infectious, drawing even the most skeptical observers into her world of possibility. "Mama," Lucy asked that night as they sorted through the equipment, "why do some people think different means wrong?" Sarah paused, struck by her daughter's perception. "Sometimes, sweetheart, people get so focused on how things should be that they forget to see how things could be. That's why what you're doing with Stargazer is so special. You're showing everyone a different kind of right." The next morning, Lucy arrived with a new mission. She had spent the evening decorating the texture markers with glitter and ribbons, making them pretty for Stargazer's heart to see. As she worked with him, teaching him to recognize different sounds and textures, something remarkable happened. Victoria Sterling, who usually observed from a distance, approached the training pen. She watched as Lucy demonstrated how Stargazer could now follow a path marked by different textures, responding to verbal cues and the sound of bells with remarkable accuracy. "Lucy," Victoria said, her voice softer than usual, "would you explain to me how you taught him to do that?" Lucy's face lit up at the chance to share her methods. With the pure enthusiasm of a child, she explained how she had created a language with Stargazer, different sounds for different actions, textures that told him where to go, and most importantly, constant encouragement. "He gets scared sometimes," Lucy explained seriously, "but that's okay because everybody gets scared. Daddy used to say being brave isn't about not being scared, it's about believing you can do it anyway." Victoria knelt down to Lucy's level, something no one at Sterling Brooks had ever seen her do. "Your father sounds like a very wise man," she said softly. "He was," Lucy nodded, her small hand reaching out to stroke Stargazer's neck. "And he always said that love is the best teacher. That's why Stargazer learns so fast, because we love him just the way he is." That moment marked a subtle but significant shift at Sterling Brooks. Victoria began taking a more active interest in Stargazer's development, often stopping by to observe Lucy's training sessions. She started to see how this unique situation could transform Sterling Brooks into something more than just a competition facility. The story of the blind foal and his 5-year-old trainer began to spread beyond the local equestrian community. People drove from neighboring states to witness their special bond, each visitor leaving with a renewed perspective on potential and perseverance. But not everyone was convinced. Some traditional trainers scoffed at the unconventional methods, arguing that keeping a blind horse was nothing more than a sentimental waste of resources. These voices of doubt would soon test the strength of Lucy's determination and the depth of the changes she had inspired at Sterling Brooks. Yet for now, in the gentle afternoon light, a little girl in rainbow boots continued to prove that the strongest sight comes from the heart, and that sometimes the most powerful changes begin with the smallest acts of love. Lucy and Stargazer's journey was just beginning, and they were about to show the world that different kinds of perfect existed, if only people were brave enough to see them. With each passing day at Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy, Stargazer's world expanded beyond the confines of his pen. Lucy's innovative training methods, born from pure intuition and childlike creativity, began showing remarkable results. The blind foal, who once struggled to walk straight, now navigated complex paths, guided by sound and touch, his confidence growing alongside his abilities. One crisp morning, as autumn painted the countryside in vibrant hues, Lucy arrived at the stables, wearing a handmade crown of leaves and carrying a small wind chime. "Mama helped me make something special," she announced to Dr. Morrison, who had become a regular observer of their training sessions. "The wind tells stories, and I want Stargazer to hear them too." The simple wind chime, when hung in the training area, proved to be a breakthrough. Stargazer learned to use the gentle tinkling as a reference point, much like a lighthouse guiding ships through darkness. Lucy's intuitive understanding of how to help her friend navigate his world continued to amaze the professionals around her. However, the peaceful progress was interrupted one morning by the arrival of Theodore Blackwood, a prominent figure in the equestrian world known for his traditional and often harsh training methods. He had heard rumors about the blind foal and came to investigate, his presence casting a shadow over the usually cheerful atmosphere. "Victoria," his booming voice carried across the yard as he approached the main office, "I heard you're harboring a blind horse. Have you lost your mind? This isn't a charity, it's a business." Victoria Sterling, who had been watching Lucy work with Stargazer, straightened her shoulders. The past weeks had changed something in her, though she struggled to articulate exactly what. "Theodore, I assure you, everything we do here has purpose." But Blackwood wasn't easily convinced. He strode toward the training area, his expensive boots clicking against the cobblestones. Lucy, absorbed in her work with Stargazer, didn't notice his approach until his shadow fell across their path. "This is ridiculous," he scoffed, watching Lucy guide Stargazer through a series of texture-based obstacles. "You're wasting valuable, stable space on a defective animal, and using a child as a trainer. This facility's standards have clearly slipped." Lucy, hearing the cruel words, stood protectively between Blackwood and Stargazer. Despite her small size, her presence radiated determination. "He's not defective," she declared, her voice clear and strong. "He's different, and different can be wonderful." Blackwood laughed dismissively, but his amusement turned to surprise as he watched Stargazer navigate the training course with remarkable precision, responding to Lucy's gentle voice commands and the sound markers she had placed strategically around the area. "Impossible," he muttered, moving closer to observe. "How is he doing that?" Lucy, her face brightening at the chance to explain, demonstrated her training methods. She showed how different bell sounds meant different directions, how textured paths helped Stargazer understand his location, and how trust and patience had built an unbreakable bond between them. "See?" she explained, her child's wisdom cutting. "Through prejudice, Stargazer doesn't need eyes to be special. He sees with his heart, and his heart is bigger than anyone's." Dr. Morrison, who had been watching the exchange, stepped forward. "Mr. Blackwood, what we're witnessing here goes beyond traditional training. This child has intuitively developed methods that could revolutionize how we work with disabled horses." Sarah Bennett, seeing her daughter stand up to such an imposing figure, felt a mixture of pride and concern. But before she could intervene, something unexpected happened. Victoria Sterling, who had been silently observing, spoke up. "Theodore," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had found a new kind of certainty, "what's happening here at Sterling Brooks isn't a departure from excellence. It's an evolution of it. This child has shown us that greatness comes in many forms." Blackwood's face reddened with frustration. "You can't be serious, Victoria. This goes against everything the equestrian world stands for. Competition, perfection, breeding standards." "No," Lucy interrupted, her small voice somehow filling the space. "It goes against what you think things should be. But sometimes the best things happen when we let them be different." To demonstrate her point, Lucy began working with Stargazer again. She guided him through a complex series of movements, using only voice commands and the sound of her special bells. The foal responded with grace and precision that seemed impossible for a blind animal. "Watch," she instructed, leading Stargazer to a new obstacle course she had designed. The course included varying textures, different sounds, and even small jumps. With perfect trust in his tiny trainer, Stargazer navigated each challenge flawlessly. The display left Blackwood speechless. Even his hardened perspective couldn't deny the remarkable connection between child and horse, or the innovative training methods that were achieving what he had deemed impossible. As word of Lucy and Stargazer's progress spread, more visitors began arriving at Sterling Brooks. Among them was Diana Chen, Marcus's wife and a respected child development specialist. She watched Lucy work with Stargazer, taking notes and occasionally asking questions. "What we're seeing here," Diana explained to Victoria, "is extraordinary on multiple levels. Lucy's methods aren't just helping Stargazer, they're challenging our entire understanding of potential and ability." The transformation extended. Beyond the training arena, other riders at Sterling Brooks began incorporating elements of Lucy's methods into their own training routines. The sound markers and texture-based navigation systems proved beneficial even for sighted horses, adding new dimensions to their training. One afternoon, as Lucy worked with Stargazer in the main arena, she had an idea that would change everything. "Mama," she called out excitedly, "can we make a special show? Not a competition, but a show to help people understand that different is beautiful." Sarah looked at her daughter, then at Victoria, who had been watching the session. To everyone's surprise, Victoria smiled, a real warm smile that transformed her usually stern face. "Lucy," Victoria said, kneeling down to the child's level, "I think that's an excellent idea. In fact, I believe it's exactly what Sterling Brooks needs." Plans for the special exhibition began taking shape. Lucy, with the enthusiasm only a 5-year-old could muster, threw herself into the preparations. She worked with Dr. Morrison to design demonstrations that would showcase Stargazer's unique abilities, and with Diana Chen to create educational components that would help visitors understand the importance of accepting and celebrating differences. The news of the upcoming exhibition spread quickly through the equestrian community. Some, like Blackwood, dismissed it as a publicity stunt. Others, intrigued by the reports of the blind horse and his young trainer, reserved judgment until they could see for themselves. As the preparations continued, Lucy faced her first real challenge. Stargazer, growing more confident each day, needed to learn more complex routines for the exhibition. The pressure to prove their methods valid weighed heavily even on her young shoulders. One evening, after a particularly difficult training session, Lucy sat in Stargazer's pen, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm scared," she confessed to her 4-legged friend, who gentle nuzzled her hair. "What if we're not good enough? What if they're right and different isn't okay?" Sarah, who had been watching from the stable door, came to sit beside her daughter. Honey, remember what Daddy used to say about the stars?" Lucy nodded, wiping her eyes. "That even when we can't see them, they're still shining." "Exactly." Sarah smiled, pulling her daughter close. "And that's what you and Stargazer are doing, shining your own special light, even when others can't see it yet." The next day, Lucy arrived at the stables with renewed determination and a new idea. She had spent the evening making what she called story bells, different-sized bells attached to ribbons, each with its own unique sound and meaning. "These are for telling stories with music," she explained to Diana, who had come to observe, "because everyone understands stories, even if they see them differently." The concept was brilliant in its simplicity. Each bell sound represented a different movement or emotion, creating a language that Stargazer could understand and respond to. The method combined sound, movement, and narrative in a way that caught the attention of both equine specialists and child development experts. As the date of the exhibition approached, Sterling Brooks buzzed with activity. Victoria had invited equestrian experts, therapy professionals, and even a documentary filmmaker to witness what Lucy and Stargazer had achieved. Through it all, Lucy remained focused on what mattered most, her friendship with Stargazer. Each morning, before beginning their training, she would sit with him, sharing stories and dreams. Their bond deepened with each passing day, proving that the purest forms of communication transcend traditional boundaries. The changes at Sterling Brooks were profound. The facility, once known only for its competitive excellence, was becoming a place of innovation and inclusion. Victoria Sterling, inspired by Lucy's unwavering belief in possibility, began developing programs for horses with various challenges, turning what some had seen as a liability into a unique strength. As autumn deepened and the exhibition drew closer, Lucy and Stargazer continued to prepare, their daily sessions watched by an ever-growing audience. They were more than trainer and horse. They were pioneers, showing the world that sometimes the most powerful lessons come from those we least expect to be our teachers. The day of the special exhibition dawned bright and clear, the autumn, air crisp with anticipation. Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy had been transformed, its usually austere atmosphere softened by colorful banners and educational displays explaining Lucy and Stargazer's unique training methods. The parking area filled early with vehicles bearing license plates from across the country, specialists, journalists, and curious observers, all drawn by the story of a blind horse and his 5-year-old trainer. Lucy arrived wearing a dress her mother had made specially for the occasion, decorated with tiny silver stars that matched Stargazer's coat. In her hair, she wore a crown of flowers woven with the small bells that had become their signature training tools. Despite the growing crowd, her focus remained entirely on Stargazer. "Today, we show the magic," she whispered to him during their morning greeting, feeding him apple slices as she always did. "But you're already magical every day." Victoria Sterling, dressed in her finest riding attire, watched the preparations with an unfamiliar flutter of nerves. The reputation of Sterling Brooks rested on today's demonstration, but not in the way she had once measured success. This was about something far more profound than ribbons or trophies. Among the attendees was Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, a leading researcher in equine behavior from Cornell University. She had traveled specifically to observe Lucy's innovative training, or techniques. "The implications of what this child has developed could be groundbreaking," she explained to Victoria. "Sometimes the most revolutionary ideas come from minds unconstrained by conventional thinking." The main arena had been specially prepared for the demonstration. Lucy had helped design the layout, insisting that every element tell part of their story. Different textured paths created patterns across the arena floor, each with its own meaning in the unique language she and Stargazer had developed. As the stands filled, Sarah helped Lucy prepare Stargazer in the quiet of their special preparation area. The silver foal, now several months old, stood calmly as Lucy attached her specially designed equipment, soft leather straps adorned with different bells that would help guide him through their demonstration. "Remember when we first found him?" Lucy asked her mother, carefully adjusting a bell. "He was so scared then, but he just needed someone to believe in him." Sarah hugged her daughter, fighting back tears. "Just like you believed in yourself. After Daddy went to heaven," she whispered. "Sometimes the biggest courage comes in the smallest packages." The atmosphere tensed with anticipation as Victoria Sterling stepped into the arena to open the exhibition. Her usual commanding presence was softened by something new. Humility, perhaps, or wonder at what she had witnessed over the past months. "Ladies and gentlemen," her voice carried across the hushed crowd, "what you're about to witness may challenge everything you believe about limitations and potential. This exhibition is not about what can't be done. It's about reimagining what's possible." Lucy led Stargazer into the arena, his steps confident despite his blindness. The crowd murmured at the sight, a tiny girl in a starry dress leading a silver foal who moved with unexpected grace. But it was their connection that drew gasps of amazement. Without words, using just the gentle sounds of bells and subtle touches, they moved as one. The demonstration began with Lucy, showing how she had taught Stargazer to navigate using sound and texture. She demonstrated their basic communication system, the different bell tones that indicated direction, speed, and movement. But it was what came next that left the audience speechless. Lucy began telling a story through movement and sound, with Stargazer as her partner. Using their special language of bells and touches, they created a dance that spoke of trust, courage, and the power of believing. The blind foal moved with perfect precision, responding to cues so subtle that many observers couldn't even detect them. Dr. Morgan leaned forward in her seat, frantically taking notes. "This is unprecedented," she whispered to a colleague. "The level of communication, the trust, the innovative use of sensory cues. This could revolutionize how we work with all horses, not just those with visual impairments." In the middle of their performance, Lucy introduced a new element that hadn't been part of their practice sessions. She removed all the bells except one, the very first bell she had ever used with Stargazer. Then, to everyone's amazement, she began walking away from him. Sarah gasped, but Victoria touched her arm gently. "Wait," she said softly. "Watch." Lucy walked to the center of the arena, her small figure surrounded by space. Then she rang the bell once, clear and true. Stargazer, standing at the far end of the arena, lifted his head. Without hesitation, he began walking directly toward the sound, navigating the space with perfect confidence. When he reached her, Lucy threw her arms around his neck, and in the profound silence that followed, her voice rang out clear and strong. "See, love always finds its way home." The arena erupted in applause, but Lucy wasn't finished. She guided Stargazer through increasingly complex movements, demonstrating how their communication system had evolved. They navigated obstacles, performed patterns, and showed how a blind horse could move with as much grace and precision as any other. Theodore Blackwood, who had returned for the exhibition, sat in stunned silence. The impossible was unfolding before his eyes, challenging everything he had believed about training and potential. Beside him, Diana Chen smiled knowingly. "Sometimes," she said, "we need a child to show us how to see with new eyes." As the demonstration concluded, Lucy and Stargazer stood in the center of the arena. The little girl's voice carried clearly. As she addressed the crowd, "Stargazer taught me that being different isn't wrong. It's just a different kind of right. And sometimes the things that make us different are the things that make us special." The impact was immediate and profound. Dr. Morgan announced her intention to document Lucy's methods for publication in leading equestrian journals. Several therapeutic riding centers requested permission to implement her techniques, but perhaps most significantly, Victoria Sterling stepped forward with an announcement of her own. "Sterling Brooks has always been dedicated to excellence," she began, her voice carrying a new warmth. "Today, thanks to a remarkable child and a very special horse, we're redefining what excellence means. I'm proud to announce the establishment of the Stargazer program, dedicated to developing innovative training methods for horses with special needs." The crowd erupted in applause again, but Lucy was focused only on Stargazer, feeding him apple slices and telling him how brave he had been. To her, this wasn't about changing the world. It was about loving one special friend exactly as he was. After the exhibition, as the crowd mingled and discussed what they had witnessed, Lucy sat in Stargazer's pen, leaning against his warm side. Sarah found them there, sharing quiet moments after all the excitement. "Lucy," she said softly, "Daddy would be so proud of you today." Lucy smiled, her hand resting on Stargazer's neck. "He is proud, Mama. I feel it in my heart, just like Stargazer feels the way forward, even when he can't see it." That evening, as the sun set over Sterling Brooks, Victoria Sterling stood at her office window, watching Lucy and Stargazer in their nightly routine. The little girl was reading a story to the foal, her voice carrying faintly on the evening breeze, the small bells on her dress tinkling gently with each movement. Victoria realized that she had witnessed more than just an innovative training method. She had seen the pure power of unconditional love and unwavering belief. In trying to save a blind foal, a little girl had opened the eyes of an entire community to a different way of seeing value and potential. The story of Lucy and Stargazer was just beginning, but already it had sparked a movement that would reach far beyond the gates of Sterling Brooks. They had shown that sometimes the most powerful changes come from the most unexpected sources, and that true vision comes not from the eyes, but from the heart. As night fell and stars began to appear in the Vermont sky, Lucy's voice could still be heard singing softly to Stargazer, their special bond, a reminder that magic exists for those brave enough to believe in it. The success of the exhibition marked not an ending, but a vibrant beginning at Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy. News of Lucy and Stargazer's groundbreaking methods spread rapidly through the equestrian world, drawing attention from unexpected quarters. One morning, as autumn's golden light filtered through the stable windows, a sleek black limousine pulled up to the main entrance. Rebecca Winters, the renowned children's book author and philanthropist, stepped out, her keen eyes taking in the facility. She had read about the 5-year-old girl who had revolutionized training methods for disabled horses and knew instantly that this story needed to be shared with children worldwide. Lucy, unaware of their important visitor, was in the training arena with Stargazer, introducing a new element to their routine. She had created what she called a rainbow path, different textured materials in various colors, helping other children understand how Stargazer navigated his world through touch. "You see," she explained to a group of visiting children from a local elementary school, "Stargazer feels colors with his hooves. Rough is red for stop, smooth is blue for go, and bumpy is yellow for careful steps." Rebecca stood at the arena's edge, captivated by the child's natural ability to translate complex concepts into language other children could understand. Victoria Sterling joined her, watching as Lucy demonstrated how Stargazer could navigate the rainbow path using only sound cues and texture recognition. "She's extraordinary," Rebecca remarked quietly. "The way she's made this accessible for other children to understand, it's exactly what we need more of in the world." The presence of other children at Sterling Brooks had become a regular occurrence since the exhibition. Lucy's approach to teaching had sparked interest from educational specialists who recognized the potential for using her methods to teach children about empathy, diversity, and problem-solving. That morning, something magical happened. As Lucy worked with the visiting children, teaching them how to use the bell signals, a little boy in a wheelchair rolled forward. His name was Tommy, and his eyes shone with anticipation. "Can I try?" he asked hesitantly. "Mom says I can't ride because of my legs, but maybe." Lucy's face lit up. "Of course you can. Stargazer doesn't care if you walk or roll. He cares about what's in your heart." With Sarah and the other adults watching carefully, Lucy showed Tommy how to hold the training bells. She taught him the basic signals, and soon Stargazer was responding to his commands, moving gracefully in response to the bell's gentle chimes. The joy on Tommy's face as he successfully guided Stargazer through a simple pattern was indescribable. His mother, watching from the sidelines, wiped tears from her eyes as she witnessed her son discovering a new kind of freedom. Rebecca knew she was watching something revolutionary. This wasn't just about training horses. It was about breaking down barriers and challenging assumptions about ability and disability. Later that afternoon, as Lucy sat with Stargazer during their quiet time, Rebecca approached with a proposal. She wanted to write a series of children's books about Lucy and Stargazer, sharing their message of hope and inclusion with children around the world. "Your story could help so many children understand that being different is beautiful," Rebecca explained, sitting on a hay bale beside Lucy. "Would you help me tell it?" Lucy's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Can we make the books so all children can read them, with bumpy letters for children who read with their fingers like Stargazer feels with his hooves?" Rebecca was touched by the child's instinctive inclusivity. "That's a wonderful idea. We can make them accessible to everyone." The project quickly evolved beyond just books. Victoria Sterling, inspired by Tommy's experience, began working with therapeutic riding experts to develop an adaptive riding program at Sterling Brooks. Lucy's methods with Stargazer became the foundation for a new approach to therapeutic riding. Sarah watched these developments with pride and a touch of amazement. Her daughter, who had once been silenced by grief, was now giving voice to those who needed it most. The stable that had nearly euthanized a blind foal was transforming into a beacon of hope and innovation. One crisp morning, as Lucy worked with a new group of children, including several with various disabilities, she had an idea that would change Sterling Brooks forever. "Mama!" she called out excitedly. "Can we have a special day where everyone can ride, where no one feels left out?" The idea took root immediately. Victoria, who had undergone her own transformation since meeting Lucy and Stargazer, embraced the concept wholeheartedly. Plans began for an inclusive equestrian festival that would showcase adaptive riding techniques and celebrate diversity in all its forms. Dr. Morrison, who had supported Lucy from the beginning, worked with a team of specialists to ensure the safety and success of the event. They developed specialized equipment, adapted Lucy's sound-based training methods for various needs, and created a comprehensive program that would allow children of all abilities to experience the joy of connecting with horses. The preparation for the festival brought new challenges and discoveries. Lucy worked tirelessly, adapting her methods to help different children connect with the horses. She showed how her bell system could be modified for children who couldn't hear, using light and vibration instead. For children who couldn't see, she taught them to understand the horses through touch and sound, just as she had taught Stargazer. Rebecca documented everything: her writer's heart touched by the pure magic of watching barriers fall and connections form. Her books about Lucy and Stargazer began taking shape, filled with the wisdom that seemed to flow naturally from the 5-year-old girl. The festival day arrived with an energy that was palpable. The grounds of Sterling Brooks had been transformed into a celebration of possibility. Different stations were set up, each designed to accommodate various needs and abilities. Lucy and Stargazer were the heart of it all, demonstrating their special bond and showing others how to create their own connections. Tommy returned, this time with friends from his therapy group. Lucy had worked with Dr. Morrison to design a special saddle that would allow children with mobility challenges to ride safely. The look of pure joy on Tommy's face as he sat on horseback for the first time brought tears to many eyes. "See?" Lucy said to the gathered crowd, her voice clear and confident. "Everyone can fly if we just give them wings that fit right." Throughout the day, children who had been told they could never ride discovered new possibilities. Parents who had seen only limitations began to see potential. The barriers between ability and disability began to blur, replaced by a celebration of individual uniqueness. Victoria Sterling, watching it all unfold, realized that her facility had found its true purpose. Sterling Brooks would always pursue excellence, but now excellence meant something far more profound than competition victories. That evening, as the festival wound down, Lucy sat with Stargazer in their special quiet spot. Rebecca joined them, notebook in hand, capturing the wisdom that seemed to flow so naturally from this remarkable child. "Lucy," she asked, "what do you think Stargazer has taught everyone today?" Lucy thought for a moment, her hand resting on Stargazer's neck. "He taught them that you don't have to see with your eyes to see what's important. Sometimes the heart sees things better than eyes ever could." The impact of the festival rippled outward. Other equestrian centers began reaching out, wanting to learn Lucy's methods and implement similar programs. The books Rebecca wrote about Lucy and Stargazer became tools for teaching children about empathy, inclusion, and the power of believing in possibilities. Sterling Brooks transformed into a place where barriers disappeared and dreams took flight. Lucy's rainbow path became a symbol of hope, showing that there were many ways to move forward, each one valid and beautiful in its own right. As stars appeared in the evening sky, Lucy and Stargazer demonstrated one last time the special bond they shared. Without bells or signals, just the pure connection between a girl and her horse, they moved together in perfect harmony. "Love doesn't need eyes to see," Lucy told the lingering crowd. "It just needs a heart brave enough to believe." The day ended with a new beginning for Sterling Brooks. Victoria announced the establishment of a foundation in Lucy and Stargazer's name, dedicated to making equestrian activities accessible to all children, regardless of their abilities. Sarah, watching her daughter lead Stargazer back to his stall for the night, realized that their journey had come full circle. The grief that had once silenced Lucy had transformed into a voice that spoke for those who needed it most. The blind foal that had been deemed worthless had become a teacher of priceless lessons. Together, they had shown the world that sometimes the most powerful vision comes from the heart, and that every soul deserves the chance to find its own way to shine. As winter descended upon Sterling Brooks Equestrian Academy, bringing blankets of pristine snow and crystalline frost, Lucy's innovation continued to flourish. The indoor arena had been transformed into a winter wonderland of possibility, with Lucy's latest creation taking center stage. A musical obstacle course she called the Symphony of Steps. The idea had come to her one snowy morning while watching snowflakes dance outside her window. Each snowflake makes its own special dance, she explained to Dr. Morrison, who had become not just a supporter, but a devoted student of her methods. What if we could make a course where every step tells part of a story through music? Lucy's new system incorporated different musical notes for different movements, creating melodies through motion. Stargazer, now nearly a year old, had learned to associate specific musical tones with different gaits and directions. The result was a stunning display of harmony between horse and handler that appeared to defy the limitations of blindness. On a particularly cold morning, an unexpected visitor arrived at Sterling Brooks. Dr. James Carter, a leading researcher in music therapy from the Berklee School of Music, had traveled across the country after hearing about Lucy's innovative use of sound in her training methods. "What you've developed here," he explained to Lucy as she demonstrated her musical system, "is actually a sophisticated form of neuroacoustic training. You've intuitively created what scientists have been trying to develop for years." Lucy, in her simple wisdom, just smiled. "Music is like invisible hugs," she said, attaching small chimes to Stargazer's special halter. "It helps us feel safe, even when we can't see where we're going." The winter program at Sterling Brooks had expanded beyond anyone's expectations. The Stargazer Foundation, established after the successful festival, now offered specialized programs for children with various challenges. Tommy, who had become a regular visitor, was now helping Lucy teach other children with mobility issues how to connect with horses through sound and touch. One morning, as snowflakes swirled outside the indoor arena, Lucy worked with a new student, a young girl named Maya, who had lost her sight in an accident the previous year. Maya's parents had heard about Stargazer's story and driven through a snowstorm from Montreal, hoping to find help for their daughter, who had withdrawn from the world since losing her vision. "It's okay to be scared," Lucy told Maya, gently guiding her hand to Stargazer's neck. Stargazer was scared too when he first came here, but being scared doesn't mean you can't be brave. With patience and understanding that seemed beyond her years, Lucy began teaching Maya the musical language she had developed with Stargazer. Each note represented a different movement or direction, creating a symphony of communication that didn't rely on sight. "Close your eyes," Lucy instructed the other children who had gathered to watch. "Now you can see the world the way Maya and Stargazer do, with your heart instead of your eyes." The transformation in Maya was remarkable. As she learned to navigate using Lucy's musical system, her confidence grew. Soon, she was able to guide Stargazer through simple patterns, the melody of their movement bringing tears to her parents' eyes. Victoria Sterling, watching from the observation area, turned to Dr. Carter. "When I first met Lucy, I thought she was just a child with a kind heart. Now I realize she's teaching us all how to see the world differently." The success with Maya led to a new initiative at Sterling Brooks. Lucy, with help from Dr. Carter and the music therapy team, began developing what they called the Sensory Symphony Program, a comprehensive approach to using music and movement to help children with various challenges connect with horses. Rebecca Winters, who had been documenting Lucy's methods for her book series, watched in amazement as the little girl's intuitive understanding of connection and communication transformed lives. The books were now being translated into multiple languages, including Braille, and had become required reading in therapeutic riding programs worldwide. One afternoon, as snow fell softly outside, Lucy gathered all the children in the indoor arena for what she called heart-seeing practice. She had created a special exercise where children would take turns being blindfolded while others guided, them using only musical cues. "Remember," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the arena, "sometimes we have to stop using our eyes to really see what's important. Stargazer taught me that the heart has its own way of seeing things." The exercise proved powerful, not just for the children with visual impairments, but for all participants. It created understanding and empathy, breaking down barriers between those with different abilities and challenges. Sarah, watching her daughter lead these sessions, remembered the quiet, grief-stricken child who had arrived at Sterling Brooks just months ago. Now Lucy's laughter rang through the arena as she helped others find their own path to healing and connection. The winter program culminated in what Lucy called the Festival of Lights and Sounds, an evening celebration that transformed Sterling Brooks into a magical landscape of gentle lights and musical pathways. Children of all abilities participated, each finding their own way to connect and communicate through Lucy's innovative methods. Stargazer, adorned with tiny bells that chimed softly with each movement, performed with Lucy in a display that left the audience breathless. Together, they created a dance of trust and understanding, proving that limitations existed only in the minds of those who couldn't see with their hearts. Dr. Carter, who had extended his stay to document Lucy's methods, shook his head in amazement. "She's not just training horses," he said to Victoria. "She's teaching us all a new way to communicate, to connect, to understand each other." The evening ended with a moment that captured the essence of everything Lucy had created. As soft snow fell outside, she gathered all the children in a circle around Stargazer. Each child held a small bell, and together they created a symphony of hope and possibility. "See," Lucy said, her voice carrying in the hushed arena, "when we all work together, even the things that seem impossible become possible. We just have to believe and be brave enough to try." The impact of Lucy's winter program reached far beyond Sterling Brooks. Other facilities began adopting her methods, creating their own versions of the sensory symphony program. The little girl who had once been told she was too young to make a difference was changing the face of therapeutic riding. As winter deepened, Lucy's innovation continued to blossom. She worked with Dr. Carter to develop more sophisticated musical training systems, each designed to help different children connect with horses in their own unique way. The indoor arena became a laboratory of possibility, where limitations dissolved and dreams took flight. One evening, as the sun set early behind snow-laden clouds, Victoria found Lucy sitting with Stargazer in their special quiet corner. The little girl was telling her friend about all the lives they had touched together. "You know what, Miss Victoria?" Lucy said, noticing her approach. "Daddy used to say that sometimes the biggest miracles come in the smallest packages. I think he was right. Sometimes all it takes is one person believing in someone else to change everything." Victoria knelt beside her, touched by the wisdom in those words. "Lucy, You've taught us all that the most important things in life can't be seen with our eyes. You've shown us that true vision comes from the heart. As winter wrapped Sterling Brooks in its quiet embrace, the legacy of Lucy and Stargazer continued to grow. They had created more than just a training program. They had built a bridge between different worlds, showing that every soul had value and every heart had its own way of seeing truth. The once prestigious competition facility had become a beacon of hope and innovation, a place where differences were celebrated and limitations became stepping stones to new possibilities. And at the heart of it all was a little girl who had taught the world that sometimes the purest wisdom comes from those who see with their hearts instead of their eyes. Spring arrived at Sterling Brooks with an explosion of color and possibility. The melting snow revealed new opportunities, and Lucy's innovative programs continued to evolve in unexpected ways. The morning dew sparkled like diamonds on the grass as Lucy introduced her latest creation, what she called the Garden of Senses. Every flower has a story, she explained to a group of visiting specialists from the National Therapeutic Riding Association. Just like Stargazer taught us to see with our hearts, the garden teaches us to understand with all our senses. Lucy had worked with the ground staff to create a special sensory trail that wound through the Sterling Brooks property. Different sections featured plants chosen for their distinct textures, scents, and sounds. The path was designed to be accessible to everyone, with smooth surfaces for wheelchairs and textured guidance strips for those with visual impairments. Among the visitors that spring morning was Dr. Rachel Chen, a pioneering researcher in neurodiversity and animal therapy. She watched, in fascination, as Lucy guided a group of children with various abilities through the sensory garden. "Here," Lucy said, stopping at a patch of lavender, "the flowers sing without making any sound. You can hear them with your nose." The children giggled at her description, but the truth in her words touched something deeper. The garden became an integral part of Lucy's expanding program. Each section was carefully designed to complement her work with Stargazer, creating a holistic approach to therapy and learning. Wind chimes hung strategically throughout the garden, their gentle music helping visitors navigate, just as the bells helped Stargazer. One particularly beautiful morning, a new child arrived at Sterling Brooks. Emma, age 7, hadn't spoken. Since witnessing a traumatic accident the previous year, her therapists had tried everything, but she remained locked in silence. Lucy, with wisdom that continued to amaze the adults around her, didn't try to make Emma talk. Instead, she invited her to help feed Stargazer his morning carrots. "Sometimes," Lucy explained to Emma's worried mother, "hearts need to whisper before they can speak." In the sensory garden, Lucy showed Emma how Stargazer used sound and touch to understand his world. She demonstrated their special bell language, then gently placed a small chime in Emma's hands. "See? You don't need words to tell stories. Your heart knows other ways." Over the next few hours, something remarkable happened. Emma, who had been silent for so long, began to respond to the gentle atmosphere of the garden. She followed Lucy and Stargazer through the winding paths, her fingers trailing through aromatic herbs, her face softening as she absorbed the peaceful environment. When they reached the musical section of the garden, where wind chimes of various tones created a natural symphony, Emma lifted the small chime Lucy had given her. With trembling hands, she rang it once, twice, matching the pattern Lucy used to guide Stargazer. The silver horse turned his head toward the sound, nickering softly in response. Emma's eyes widened, and for the first time in over a year, she made a sound, a small, surprised laugh that brought tears to her mother's eyes. "She's speaking with her heart," Lucy explained to the astonished adults. "Just like Stargazer taught me." The success with Emma led to a new dimension in Lucy's program. The sensory garden became a sanctuary for children dealing with trauma, a place where healing could happen naturally, without pressure or expectations. Victoria Sterling, watching these developments, realized that Sterling Brooks had become something far more significant than she had ever imagined. The prestigious Equestrian Academy had transformed into a pioneer in therapeutic healing, all because of a 5-year-old girl's ability to see potential where others saw limitations. One afternoon, as Lucy worked with a group of children in the garden, a distinguished visitor arrived. Dr. Sarah Matthews, head of the International Association for Child Development, had come to observe the revolutionary program she'd been hearing about. Lucy was in her element, showing the children how different plants created different sounds when the wind blew through them. "Nature's orchestra," she called it, encouraging the children to close their eyes and really listen. Dr. Matthews watched in amazement as children who struggled with various challenges began to open up and engage with their environment. Lucy's natural ability to make everyone feel safe and accepted created an atmosphere where healing seemed to happen effortlessly. "What you've created here," Dr. Matthews told Victoria later, "goes beyond traditional therapy. This child has intuitively developed methods that professional therapists spend years trying to perfect." The garden's success inspired new additions to the Sterling Brooks program. Lucy worked with horticultural therapists to expand the sensory experiences, creating what she called friendship gardens, where children could work together to grow flowers and vegetables. "When you help something grow," she explained to a group of parents, "you grow too. Stargazer taught me that sometimes the best way to heal is to help others." The garden became a place of transformation. Children who struggled with anxiety found peace among the swaying flowers. Those with sensory challenges learned to process their environment at their own pace. And those like Emma, trapped in silence, found new ways to express themselves. One morning, Lucy had a new idea. She gathered all the children in the central area of the garden, where a circular pattern of different textured plants created a natural arena. With Stargazer by her side, she began teaching them about what she called nature's dance. "Every flower moves differently in the wind," she explained, demonstrating with her arms how various plants swayed and bobbed. "But together, they make something beautiful. Just like us, we're all different, but together, we make something special." The children began moving like different plants, some tall and straight like sunflowers, others flowing like ornamental grasses. Even those in wheelchairs participated, using their arms to mimic the gentle movement of leaves in the breeze. Dr. Matthews, who had extended her stay to document these methods, was moved to tears by the scene. "She's not just teaching them about nature," she observed. "She's teaching them to accept and celebrate their own unique ways of moving through the world." The garden's influence continued to grow. Other facilities began requesting guidance on creating their own sensory spaces. Lucy's intuitive understanding of how to create healing environments became the foundation for a new approach to therapeutic outdoor spaces. Rebecca Winters, working on her latest book about Lucy and Stargazer, found herself struggling to capture the magic of what was happening at Sterling Brooks. How do you put into words something that speaks directly to the heart? She wondered. Aloud one afternoon, Lucy, overhearing this, smiled as she adjusted a wind chime. "Maybe some stories are best told by the wind and the flowers," she said, her simple wisdom once again striking at a deeper truth. As spring progressed, the garden flourished, much like the children who found healing within its bounds. Emma, who had first arrived in silence, now helped Lucy guide other children through the sensory experiences. Her voice, though still quiet, grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in soft pastels, Lucy sat, with Stargazer in their special corner of the garden. The silver horse grazed contentedly as wind chimes sang their gentle song above them. "You know what, Stargazer?" Lucy said, her small hand resting on his neck. "Sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the smallest seeds of hope. Just like you and me, we started as a tiny story, and now look how many people we're helping." Sarah, watching her daughter from the garden path, realized that Lucy had done more than create a healing space. She had created a place where courage could bloom and hearts could find their way home. As twilight settled over Sterling Brooks, the garden took on a magical quality. Solar lights, tucked among the plants, began to glow softly, creating a gentle illumination that seemed to mirror the light of hope that Lucy had brought to so many lives. The legacy of the little girl and her blind horse continued to grow, spreading like the roots of the garden they had inspired, reaching out to touch lives in ways that went beyond sight or sound, speaking directly to the heart of what it meant to heal, to grow, and to believe in the power of unconditional love. As summer embraced Sterling Brooks with its golden warmth, a new challenge emerged that would test everything Lucy and Stargazer had built. The International Equestrian Federation announced a groundbreaking initiative, the first ever adaptive equestrian showcase, designed to highlight innovative approaches in therapeutic riding and inclusive horsemanship. Victoria Sterling received the invitation with mixed emotions. The event would bring unprecedented attention to their programs, but it also meant exposing their unconventional methods to intense scrutiny from the traditional equestrian world. "Lucy," Victoria called out one morning, finding the little girl in the sensory garden with Stargazer. "How would you feel about sharing what we do here with people from all over the world?" Lucy's face lit up with excitement, like a big friendship party where everyone can learn to see with their hearts. The preparation for the showcase became a community effort. Children from Lucy's programs eagerly volunteered to demonstrate the various techniques they had learned. Emma, who now spoke in soft but clear tones, helped Lucy create a presentation about their sensory communication methods. However, not everyone supported Sterling Brooks' participation. Theodore Blackwood, still skeptical of their unconventional approaches, launched a public criticism of the decision to include a program led by a 5-year-old child. "This is making a mockery of serious therapeutic riding," he declared in an equestrian journal. "We need professional standards, not child's play." The words reached Lucy's ears despite efforts to shield her. But instead of discouragement, she found inspiration. "Stargazer," she whispered to her silver friend, "sometimes people forget that love is the best teacher of all. Maybe we need to help them remember." Lucy's response to the criticism was to create something entirely new, She called it the Symphony of Understanding, a comprehensive demonstration that would combine all the elements of their program, the musical communication system, the sensory garden techniques, and the adaptive riding methods. Dr. Carter, who had returned to help prepare for the showcase, watched in amazement as Lucy orchestrated her vision. She integrated children with different abilities into a flowing presentation that demonstrated how their differences created harmony rather than discord. "See?" Lucy explained during a practice session. "When Tommy uses his wheelchair chimes, and Maya uses her touch bells, and Emma uses her whisper songs, we make something beautiful together. Just like in nature, every flower has its own dance, but together they make a garden." The news of Lucy's innovative showcase spread quickly through the therapeutic riding community. Soon, Sterling Brooks began receiving requests from facilities worldwide, asking to send representatives to observe their methods. One visitor particularly touched Lucy's heart, a young boy named Miguel, who had traveled from Spain with his parents. Miguel had lost both legs in an accident, and his parents had nearly given up hope of finding a way for him to connect with horses, his lifelong passion. Lucy approached Miguel with the same openness she showed everyone. "Would you like to meet my friend who sees with his heart?" she asked, leading him to Stargazer. Over the next few days, Lucy worked with Miguel, adapting her methods to suit his needs. She created a special system of arm movements that could communicate with Stargazer, allowing Miguel to guide the horse from his wheelchair. "You don't need legs to dance with your heart," Lucy told him, showing him how to use the musical cues she had developed. "Stargazer doesn't know you're sitting down. He just knows you're his friend." The transformation in Miguel was remarkable. By the end of his visit, he was able to guide Stargazer through complex patterns, using only upper body movements and sound cues. His parents, who had arrived looking defeated, left with renewed hope and determination. As the showcase approached, Sterling Brooks hummed with activity. The sensory garden bloomed with summer flowers, their colors and scents creating a magical atmosphere. The indoor arena was transformed to accommodate demonstrations of their various programs. Lucy worked tirelessly, ensuring that every child who wanted to participate had a role that highlighted their unique abilities. She created what she called heart maps, specially designed programs that helped each participant understand their part in the larger presentation. The day before the showcase, an unexpected storm hit the area. Heavy rain threatened to damage the sensory garden, and the power flickered ominously. But instead of panicking, Lucy saw an opportunity. "Quick!" she called to the children who were helping with preparations. "Let's make rainbow umbrellas for the flowers." Soon, the garden was dotted with colorful umbrellas, protecting the delicate plants while creating a whimsical display that perfectly captured the spirit of their program. When the storm passed, leaving everything fresh and clean, the rainbow umbrella garden became an unplanned but perfect addition to their presentation. The morning of the showcase dawned bright and clear. Delegates from equestrian programs around the world filled the observation areas. Among them sat Theodore Blackwood, his expression stern but curious. Lucy, dressed in a flowing dress decorated with tiny bells, began the presentation by introducing Stargazer. "My friend doesn't see with his eyes," she explained to the assembled crowd, "but he taught me that there are many ways to see beauty in the world." What followed left even the skeptics speechless. Children of varying abilities demonstrated the musical communication system, moving in harmony with their horses. The sensory garden came alive with interactive demonstrations, showing how different elements could be used to help people connect with horses and nature. Tommy demonstrated how his wheelchair-adapted riding techniques allowed him to guide his horse through complex patterns. Maya showed how the touch-based communication system helped her navigate without sight. Emma, once silent, now quietly explained how the program had helped her find her voice again. But it was Miguel's demonstration that brought tears to many eyes. Using Lucy's adapted methods, he guided Stargazer through an intricate dance. His wheelchair moving in perfect synchronization with the horse's steps. The harmony between them proved that limitations existed only in the mind. Theodore Blackwood sat forward in his seat, his criticism forgotten as he watched Lucy orchestrate this remarkable display. The professional standards he had demanded were there, not in rigid rules or traditional methods, but in the clear, measurable results of love, patience, and innovation. As the showcase concluded, Lucy gathered all the participants in the center of the arena. "Every heart has its own song," she said, her clear voice carrying to every corner. "When we learn to listen to each other's songs, we make something more beautiful than any of us could make alone." The impact was immediate and profound. Representatives from equestrian programs worldwide approached Victoria Sterling, eager to learn more about their methods. But it was Theodore Blackwood's response that surprised everyone. "I was wrong," he announced publicly, approaching Lucy. "After the presentation, you've created something extraordinary here, something that goes beyond traditional standards and reaches into the very heart of what it means to connect with horses and with each other." Lucy smiled, taking his hand with the simple acceptance that characterized everything she did. "It's okay," she said. "Sometimes we all need help to see with our hearts instead of our eyes." The success of the showcase marked a new chapter for Sterling Brooks. Their programs would now serve as a model for inclusive equestrian centers worldwide. But for Lucy, the greatest success was seeing the joy on the faces of children who had found their own ways to connect and communicate. That evening, as the sun set on a day of triumph, Lucy sat with Stargazer in their quiet corner of the garden. The silver horse, now fully grown but still guided by the pure love of a child's heart, rested his head gently on her shoulder. "You know what, Stargazer?" Lucy whispered. "Daddy always said that love finds a way. I think he was right. Love doesn't care if you can't see or walk or talk the same as everyone else. Love just cares that you're you." The legacy of Lucy and Stargazer had grown beyond anything anyone could have imagined. They had shown the world that true communication transcends traditional boundaries, that healing comes in many forms, and that sometimes the purest wisdom comes from those who see the world not with their eyes, but with their hearts. As stars began to appear in the summer sky, the gentle sound of bells drifted across Sterling Brooks, carrying with it the promise of new possibilities and the certainty that love, in its purest form, knows no limitations. The achievements at Sterling Brooks had caught the attention of influential figures in child development and therapeutic riding, but an unexpected invitation arrived that would take Lucy and Stargazer's message to an entirely new level. The United Nations Educational Committee requested their presence at a special summit focusing on innovative approaches to inclusive education. "They want us to show the whole world how to see with their hearts," Lucy explained to Stargazer, her small fingers braiding colorful ribbons into his mane. But first we need to do something even more special. Lucy had been working secretly on what she called her dream map, a comprehensive program that would help other facilities recreate the magic that had transformed Sterling Brooks. But her approach was uniquely childlike in its wisdom. Instead of complex manuals and rigid protocols, she created a series of heart stories that explained their methods through the eyes of the children who had experienced them. Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, a child psychologist who had been documenting Lucy's methods, watched in amazement as the little girl recorded video messages with each child in their program. Tommy shared how learning to guide horses from his wheelchair had given him confidence in other areas of his life. Maya demonstrated how losing her sight had helped her discover new ways of understanding the world around her. You see, Lucy explained to a group of visiting educators, everyone has a special way of teaching something. We just have to listen with our hearts to hear what they're showing us. The preparation for the UN summit brought unexpected challenges. Some critics questioned whether a 5-year-old could effectively address an international audience. Others worried that their methods were too unconventional for widespread adoption. But Lucy, with her characteristic wisdom, had an answer that silenced the skeptics. She proposed a live demonstration that would connect children from around the world through a synchronized sensory experience. Working with technology experts, she helped design a system that would allow children in different countries to participate in a simultaneous therapeutic riding session. Victoria Sterling, watching Lucy coordinate this ambitious project, realized that the little girl's vision extended far beyond anything they had imagined. "She's not just teaching people about horses," Victoria commented to Sarah. "She's teaching us how to break down barriers we never even knew existed." The day of the summit arrived with an air of anticipation. Through large screens set up in the Sterling Brooks Arena, they could see children gathered at riding facilities in Japan, Brazil, Kenya, and Australia, all waiting to participate in Lucy's global sensory symphony. Lucy, standing beside Stargazer in her special dress adorned with bells, addressed the international audience with the simple clarity that had become her trademark. "Today, we're going to show you that love doesn't need words to be understood. It doesn't need eyes to see beauty. It just needs hearts that are brave enough to believe." What followed was unprecedented. Using a combination of music, movement, and the natural rhythms of horses, Lucy led a synchronized session that transcended language and cultural barriers. Children with various abilities across multiple continents moved together in a harmony that demonstrated the universal language of connection. The impact was immediate and profound. Delegates from countries worldwide witnessed how Lucy's methods could adapt to different cultural contexts while maintaining their core principle, that every heart has its own way of understanding and expressing love. The success of the global demonstration led to an unexpected development. The United Nations proposed establishing a special program under Lucy's guidance, the International Heart Sight Initiative, dedicated to spreading her inclusive methods worldwide. But Lucy's greatest triumph came in a quiet moment after the summit. A delegate from a small village in Africa approached her with tears in his eyes. "In our community," he said through a translator, "children with differences are often hidden away. But you've shown us that these differences can be gifts that enrich us all. This encounter inspired Lucy to create something new, the Rainbow Bridge program. Working with international partners, she began developing ways to adapt her methods for communities with limited resources. She showed how simple materials like locally made percussion instruments could replace electronic sound systems, and how natural elements could create sensory experiences similar to their high-tech equivalents. You don't need expensive things to see with your heart, she explained, while demonstrating how coconut shells could create the same sound patterns as their specialized equipment. Nature gives us everything we need to understand each other. The program's success brought an unexpected invitation. The Nobel Committee requested Lucy's presence at a special youth summit in Stockholm, recognizing her contribution to international understanding and inclusion. But Lucy, with her usual wisdom, had a different idea. "Can we invite them here instead?" she asked Victoria. "I want them to meet all my friends who helped make this happen." The committee agreed, and Sterling Brooks prepared to host an event that would celebrate not just Lucy's achievements, but the contributions of every child who had been part of their journey. The day of the celebration dawned bright and clear. The sensory garden bloomed with fresh flowers, and the arena was transformed into a living testament to their journey. Children from their programs demonstrated how far they had come. Tommy performing complex dressage patterns from his wheelchair, Maya leading younger, visually impaired children through their first riding experiences, and Emma, once silent, now confidently explaining their methods to visitors. Lucy and Stargazer's demonstration brought the audience to tears. Together, they performed a dance that represented their journey, from the darkness of rejection to the light of acceptance and understanding. But the most powerful moment came when Lucy invited other children to join them. One by one, children with different abilities entered the arena. Each moved in their own way, some in wheelchairs, some guided by sound, others by touch. Yet together they created a harmony that demonstrated the true meaning of inclusion. "See," Lucy's voice rang out clear and strong, "when we stop trying to make everyone the same and start celebrating how we're different, we make something more beautiful than anyone could make alone." The Nobel Committee representatives watched in amazement as Lucy's simple wisdom transformed their understanding of what was possible. They saw how her methods didn't just help children ride horses, they helped build bridges between different ways of experiencing the world. The impact of Lucy's work continued to grow. Educational institutions worldwide began incorporating her methods into their programs. Healthcare facilities discovered that her sensory communication techniques could help patients recovering from trauma. Even corporate organizations started using her principles to create more inclusive workplaces. But perhaps the most significant change was in how people began to view differences. Through Lucy's eyes, limitations became opportunities for innovation, and challenges became invitations to find new ways of understanding. As the sun set on the day of celebration, Lucy sat with Stargazer in their special corner of the garden. The silver horse, who had once been deemed worthless, now stood as a symbol of how love could transform perception. "You know what, Stargazer?" Lucy whispered, her small hand resting on his neck. "Daddy always said that angels come in many forms. I think he sent you to help me show people that love doesn't need eyes to see the truth." The legacy of Lucy and Stargazer had grown beyond anyone's imagination. They had shown the world that sometimes the purest wisdom comes from those who see not with their eyes, but with their hearts. Their story had become a beacon of hope, proving that when we dare to look beyond our limitations, we discover that the only true boundaries are the ones we create in our minds. As stars appeared in the evening sky, the gentle sound of bells drifted across Sterling Brooks, carrying with it the promise that love, in its purest form, knows no boundaries, speaks all languages, and sees with the heart what eyes can never perceive. As autumn painted Sterling Brooks in brilliant hues once again, a new chapter began that would challenge everything Lucy and Stargazer had built. The International Equine Research Foundation announced a groundbreaking study aimed at understanding the neurological development of blind horses, and they wanted Stargazer to be their primary subject. Lucy listened intently as Dr. Morrison explained the study's importance. They want to learn how Stargazer's brain created new pathways to understand the world, he said gently. It could help other blind horses and even humans with visual impairments. The prospect of being separated from Stargazer for the duration of the study filled Lucy's heart with concern, but she remembered what her father had always told her about courage, that sometimes love means doing what's hard for the greater good. Will it help lots of others learn to see with their hearts? She asked, her small hand resting on Stargazer's neck. More than we can imagine, Victoria Sterling replied, touched by the child's selfless consideration. But before any decision could be made, something unexpected happened. Dr. Rachel Martinez, the lead researcher, suggested a revolutionary approach. Instead of moving Stargazer to their facility, they would bring their research team to Sterling Brooks. This way, they could study not just Stargazer's adaptations, but the entire ecosystem of healing and growth that Lucy had created. The arrival of the research team transformed Sterling Brooks into a living laboratory of hope. Scientists with advanced equipment shared space with children, learning to navigate their world in new ways. Lucy's simple wisdom began influencing their research methods in unexpected ways. "Watch," she told Dr. Martinez one morning, demonstrating how Stargazer responded to different musical tones. Each sound makes a picture in his heart. It's like painting with music. Ray. The researchers were amazed to discover that Lucy's intuitive methods had accidentally tapped into cutting-edge neuroscience. Her musical communication system aligned perfectly with recent discoveries about brain plasticity and sensory compensation. During this time, a new student arrived at Sterling Brooks. Joshua, a brilliant 12-year-old with autism who had never connected with traditional therapy. His parents had heard about Lucy's program and traveled across the country in hope. Lucy approached Joshua with the same open heart she showed everyone. Instead of trying to draw him out, she invited him into Stargazer's world of sensory understanding. "Sometimes," she explained to Joshua's parents, "we need to listen with more than our ears to hear what someone is trying to tell us." Working with Joshua, Lucy developed a new dimension to their program. She noticed how he responded to patterns and created a system of rhythmic sequences that helped him communicate his needs and feelings through music and movement. The researchers watched in amazement as Joshua, who had rarely engaged with others, began expressing himself through what Lucy called heart music. He worked with Stargazer using a special set of chimes Lucy had created, each tone corresponding to different emotions or needs. See? Lucy explained to the astonished researchers. Joshua's not locked inside himself. He just speaks a different heart language. Stargazer helped me learn how to listen. The breakthrough with Joshua led to an expansion of their research. Focus. Dr. Martinez and her team began studying how Lucy's methods could be adapted for children with various neurodevelopmental conditions. One morning, Lucy gathered all the children in the sensory garden for what she called a heart symphony. Each child, including Joshua, was given instruments that matched their unique way of communicating. Together, they created a harmony that transcended traditional boundaries of expression. The research team documented everything, amazed by how Lucy's intuitive understanding of connection had created methods that science was only beginning to comprehend. Their preliminary findings suggested that her approach tapped into fundamental aspects of human consciousness and connection. Victoria Sterling, watching the program evolve, realized that what had started as a simple act of compassion had grown into something that could revolutionize our understanding of human potential. She worked with the research team to establish the Sterling Brooks Institute for Innovative Therapy, dedicated to studying and developing Lucy's methods. The institute attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Neuroscientists, psychologists, and educators from around the world came to observe how a child's pure understanding of love and connection had created approaches that their most advanced research was only beginning to validate. During this time, Lucy continued to innovate. She worked with Joshua to create what they called pattern paths, sequences of movements and sounds that helped other children with autism connect with horses and express themselves more freely. Everyone has a pattern in their heart, she explained to a visiting researcher. We just have to learn how to see it and dance with it instead of trying to change it. The success of Lucy's methods led to an unexpected honor. The World Health Organization proposed incorporating her approaches into their global guidelines for therapeutic interventions. But Lucy, with her characteristic wisdom, had a different suggestion. Instead of making rules, she said during a video conference with WHO officials, can we make heart maps? That way, everyone can find their own special way to follow the path. Her suggestion led to the creation of the Global Heart Site Initiative, a program that adapted her methods for different cultural contexts while maintaining their essential principle. That understanding comes through opening our hearts to different ways of seeing and being. As the research continued, Lucy worked with Dr. Martinez to document their findings in a way that children could understand. Together, they created what Lucy called the Heart Sight Stories, a series of illustrated books that explained their methods through the experiences of the children and horses who had shaped them. One story featured Joshua's journey, showing how his unique way of seeing the world had helped them discover new ways of understanding connection. Another told of Maya's experience, demonstrating how losing physical sight had opened her heart to deeper ways of seeing. The research team's findings began appearing in prestigious medical journals, validating what Lucy had known all along, that love, understanding, and connection transcend traditional boundaries of communication and consciousness. But perhaps the most significant validation came from an unexpected source. One afternoon, as Lucy worked with Joshua in the sensory garden, he spoke his first complete sentence in years. "The music helps me see with my heart." The moment was captured by the research team's cameras and quickly became a symbol of their program's impact. It demonstrated how Lucy's simple wisdom had created bridges between different ways of experiencing and understanding the world. As autumn deepened, Sterling Brooks hosted a special symposium combining scientific presentations with demonstrations of their methods. Researchers shared their findings, while children showed how these approaches worked in practice. Lucy and Stargazer's demonstration brought together everything they had learned. With Joshua's help, they created a performance that showed how different ways of seeing and understanding could create something more beautiful than any single perspective could achieve. The event concluded with a moment that captured the essence of their work. As the sun set, Lucy gathered everyone in the sensory garden. Children, researchers, and visitors formed a circle, each holding one of the special chimes she had created. "Close your eyes," she instructed, her voice clear in the evening air. "Now, instead of trying to understand with your mind, listen with your heart." The resulting symphony of sounds, created by people from different backgrounds, abilities, and ways of understanding, demonstrated the pure power of connection beyond traditional boundaries. As stars began to appear in the autumn sky, Lucy sat with Stargazer in their quiet corner of the garden. Joshua joined them, adding his own gentle chimes to the evening's peace. "You know what?" Lucy said softly, including both her friends in her embrace. "Sometimes the biggest discoveries aren't made in laboratories. Sometimes they're made in hearts, brave enough to see love in different ways." The research project had evolved into something far more significant than anyone had anticipated. It had shown that the purest wisdom often comes from those who see the world not through the lens of conventional understanding, but through the unlimited vision of an open heart. As winter approached Sterling Brooks once again, an unexpected challenge arose that would test everything Lucy and Stargazer had built. A powerful development corporation had purchased the land surrounding the academy, with plans to construct a massive entertainment complex that would threaten the peaceful environment essential to their therapeutic programs. Marcus Reynolds, the corporation's CEO, arrived at Sterling Brooks one crisp morning, his sleek car looking out of place among the natural beauty of the grounds. He came with blueprints and promises of economic growth, seemingly deaf to concerns about how the construction would impact the sensitive work being done at the facility. "Progress is inevitable," he declared during a meeting with Victoria Sterling. "Your little horse therapy program can't stand in the way of development." Lucy, who had been working with a group of children in the sensory garden, overheard the conversation. Instead of feeling discouraged, she saw an opportunity to show another kind of progress, one measured not in dollars, but in transformed lives. "Mr. Reynolds," she called out, her voice clear and confident, "would you like to meet someone who knows a different kind of value?" Before the businessman could refuse, Lucy had taken his hand and led him to where Stargazer stood in the morning sun. The silver horse, now fully grown but still guided by love, turned his head toward the sound of their approach. "This is my friend, who taught me that sometimes the most valuable things can't be seen with our eyes," Lucy explained, encouraging Reynolds to touch Stargazer's neck. "He was once considered worthless because he was different. But look at how many lives he's helped change." Reynolds, caught off guard by the child's direct approach, found himself listening as Lucy showed him around the facility. She introduced him to Tommy, who demonstrated how the specialized riding program had helped him gain confidence despite his physical challenges. Maya shared how losing her sight had led her to discover new ways of understanding the world. Joshua, who had rarely spoken before joining their program, played his heart music on the special chimes Lucy had created for him. "You see," Lucy explained, her wisdom cutting through corporate calculations, "sometimes the biggest progress happens in the smallest moments, when we learn to see value in things others might miss." The impact of Lucy's tour wasn't immediately apparent, but seeds of change had been planted. Reynolds, despite his business-focused exterior, found himself touched by the pure truth in the child's words. A week later, he returned to Sterling Brooks with a different kind of proposal. Instead of building the entertainment complex, his corporation would help expand the therapeutic riding facility, creating what he called a sanctuary of innovation, where Lucy's methods could reach even more people in need. "Sometimes," he admitted to Victoria, "we need a child to remind us what really matters in life." The unexpected alliance led to an expansion of Sterling Brooks that no one had imagined possible. Reynolds's corporation provided resources to create additional sensory gardens, innovative therapy spaces, and advanced research facilities, all designed to complement the natural healing environment Lucy had established. During the planning phase, Lucy insisted that every new addition maintain the connection to nature that had been crucial to their success. She worked with architects to design spaces that would enhance rather than compete with the existing environment. "The buildings need to listen to the land," she explained, showing the designers how different natural elements contributed to their therapeutic approach. "Just like we learn to listen to different ways of seeing and understanding." The expansion project attracted international attention, not just for its innovative design, but for the unprecedented collaboration between corporate interests and therapeutic programs. Other companies began to take notice, leading to a new movement. In corporate responsibility focused on supporting inclusive therapeutic initiatives. As construction began, Lucy ensured that the process itself became part of their therapeutic program. Children watched in fascination as their ideas took physical form, their input valued and incorporated into the design. Joshua, particularly, fascinated by the construction patterns, helped create a musical installation that would translate building rhythms into therapeutic sounds. The project faced its share of challenges. Some locals worried about increased traffic and noise. Environmental groups expressed concerns about the impact on local wildlife. But Lucy, with her characteristic ability to find connecting threads, helped create solutions that addressed everyone's concerns. She worked with environmental experts to design wildlife corridors and natural habitats throughout the expanded facility. The construction schedule was adapted to respect both the needs of their therapeutic programs and the natural rhythms of the local ecosystem. "We're not just building buildings," Lucy explained to a group of concerned citizens. "We're creating spaces where hearts can heal and grow while helping nature do the same." The winter months brought their own unique opportunities. Lucy developed new programs that incorporated the changing seasons into their therapeutic approach. She showed how the quiet of snow-covered grounds could help children focus on subtle sounds and sensations, enhancing their ability to connect with horses and each other. One particularly cold morning, as snowflakes danced in the air, Lucy gathered everyone, construction workers, therapists, children and horses, for what she called a winter heart symphony. Each person and horse contributed their own sounds to the harmony, creating a powerful demonstration of how different elements could work together in perfect balance. The event caught the attention of international media, who were amazed to see construction equipment moving in rhythm with therapeutic bells, while children and horses created patterns in the fresh snow. The image became a symbol of how progress and preservation could coexist when guided by wisdom and compassion. Reynolds, watching from the sidelines, realized that his corporation had stumbled upon something far more valuable than any entertainment complex could provide. They were helping to create a model for how business interests could support and enhance therapeutic programs rather than displacing them. As the expansion progressed, Lucy continued to innovate. She worked with designers to create what she called healing spaces, areas where natural elements and therapeutic tools combined to create environments that supported different types of healing and growth. The winter garden became a particular source of pride. Lucy showed how the bare branches and quiet landscapes could help children focus on subtle forms of communication. The absence of visual distractions helped them develop deeper awareness of sound, touch, and movement. Winter teaches us to see beauty in simplicity, she explained to a group of visiting educators. Just like Stargazer taught us to see beauty in different ways of understanding. The impact of the expansion project extended far beyond Sterling Brooks. Other facilities began studying their model, learning how therapeutic programs could grow and evolve while maintaining their essential connection to nature and healing. One afternoon, as snow fell softly outside, Reynolds sat in on a session where Lucy worked with a group of children using their musical communication system. He watched in amazement as children who had once been labeled unreachable responded to the gentle guidance of sound and movement. "I almost destroyed this," he admitted to Victoria later. "I was so focused on building something new that I couldn't see the magic that was already here." The success of the expansion led to an unexpected development. The World Economic Forum invited Lucy to speak about how business and therapeutic programs could work together for mutual benefit. But Lucy, with her usual wisdom, suggested something different. "Instead of me talking about it," she proposed, "why don't we show them? Let them come here and feel the magic themselves." The resulting event brought together business leaders, healthcare professionals, and environmental experts. They experienced firsthand how Lucy's methods, combined with thoughtful development, could create spaces that served both human needs and natural preservation. As winter deepened, the expanded Sterling Brooks stood as a testament to what was possible when different perspectives came together in harmony. The new facilities enhanced rather than overwhelmed the natural environment, creating spaces where healing could happen in multiple ways. Lucy and Stargazer's evening routine remained unchanged despite the growth around them. They still spent quiet moments in their special corner of the garden, now enhanced by the gentle sounds of the new musical installations Joshua had helped design. "You know what, Stargazer?" Lucy whispered one snowy evening. "Sometimes the biggest changes happen when we help others see the value in things they wanted to change. Just like you helped me see that different isn't wrong, it's just a different kind of right." The transformation of Sterling Brooks had become more than just a construction project. It stood as a model for how progress could honor and enhance existing values rather than replacing them, and how the wisdom of a child could guide even the most powerful business interests toward a more compassionate understanding of success. Spring returned to Sterling Brooks, bringing with it a milestone that would mark the culmination of Lucy and Stargazer's incredible journey. 1 year had passed since that fateful morning when a blind foal was scheduled to be euthanized, only to be saved by the pure love of a 5-year-old girl who saw with her heart instead of her eyes. Victoria Sterling announced plans for a celebration unlike anything the equestrian world had seen before, a festival that would showcase not just their achievements, but the transformative power of unconditional love and acceptance. The event would bring together everyone whose lives had been touched by Lucy and Stargazer's story. As preparations began, Lucy had an inspiration that would make the celebration truly special. "We should invite all the horses that people said couldn't be helped," she suggested during a planning meeting. "We can show them that every heart has its own kind of magic." The idea sparked a worldwide search for horses that had been deemed unhelpable by traditional standards. Soon, Sterling Brooks began receiving applications from around the globe, horses with various physical challenges, emotional trauma, and behavioral issues that conventional methods had failed to address. Lucy worked tirelessly with each new arrival, adapting her methods to meet their unique needs. She showed how her musical communication system could be modified for horses with hearing impairments, and how her sensory techniques could help those with anxiety or trust issues. "Every horse speaks a different heart language," she explained to the growing team of international specialists who had come to learn her methods. "We just have to learn how to listen." The transformation in these horses was remarkable. A mare, who had been considered too traumatized for human contact, began responding to Lucy's gentle musical cues. A stallion with severe anxiety learned to find peace in the sensory garden's careful design. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when Theodore Blackwood returned to Sterling Brooks, leading a horse he had once declared impossible to train. The horse, a magnificent Arabian named Thunder, had been written off due to extreme fear responses that made him dangerous to handle. "I was wrong before," Blackwood admitted, watching as Lucy approached Thunder with her characteristic gentle confidence. "Maybe you can help him find his way, just like you helped us all see a different kind of truth." Lucy worked with Thunder, using a combination of her established methods and new techniques she created specifically for him. She introduced what she called courage chimes, specially tuned bells that helped the frightened horse associate different sounds with safety and comfort. The festival preparations continued, with each day bringing new revelations and breakthroughs. Joshua, who had found his voice through Lucy's program, began helping other children with autism connect with the horses using their shared understanding of patterns and rhythm. Maya, now confident in her ability to navigate without sight, worked with visually impaired visitors, showing them how to use their other senses to connect with the horses. "We see with our hearts," she explained, echoing Lucy's wisdom, "and hearts don't need eyes to understand love." Tommy's wheelchair-adapted riding techniques had evolved into a comprehensive program for mobility-challenged riders. He worked with engineers to design new adaptive equipment that would allow even more people to experience the joy of connecting with horses. As the day of the festival approached, Sterling Brooks blossomed with new life. The sensory garden now expanded and enhanced, became a living symphony of color, texture, and sound. Lucy had worked with landscape artists to create what she called healing pathways, routes through the garden designed to address different therapeutic needs. The morning of the festival dawned clear and bright, the air filled with the gentle music of wind chimes and the soft sounds of horses greeting the new day. Visitors began arriving early, drawn by the promise of witnessing something extraordinary. Lucy, dressed in a flowing dress adorned with tiny bells, began the celebration with a ceremony that brought tears to many eyes. She led Stargazer to the center of the main arena, where they were joined by all the horses that had once been considered beyond help. Each animal moved with newfound confidence, their previous challenges transformed into unique expressions of grace. "A year ago," Lucy's clear voice rang out, "someone thought Stargazer wasn't worth saving because he was different. But being different isn't wrong. It's just a different kind of right. Every horse here today proves that love doesn't need eyes to see value, and hearts don't need words to understand each other." The demonstration that followed showed the full scope of what they had achieved. Horses that had once been deemed dangerous performed complex routines guided only by sound and touch. Riders with various challenges demonstrated how adaptive techniques had opened new possibilities for connection and communication. Thunder, the horse Blackwood had brought, performed a freedom dance with Lucy that left the audience speechless. Without restraints or traditional controls, the once frightened horse moved in perfect harmony with the child's gentle guidance. Their connection, a testament to the power of trust and understanding. The festival became a celebration not just of their achievements, but of the unlimited potential that exists when we dare to see beyond conventional limitations. International media captured the event, broadcasting Lucy's message of hope and transformation to audiences worldwide. As evening approached, Lucy gathered everyone for what she called the Symphony of Hearts, a musical performance that brought together all the elements of their program. Children, horses, and adults of all abilities contributed their unique voices to the harmony, creating a powerful demonstration of how different kinds of perfect could come together to create something extraordinary. The day concluded with a quiet moment that captured the essence of their journey. As the sun set, Lucy and Stargazer returned to their special corner of the garden, now surrounded by the many lives they had touched. In the gentle twilight, Lucy shared one final wisdom. "You know what?" she said, her voice carrying clearly. "In the evening air, every star in the sky shines in its own special way, but together they make something beautiful. That's what we all did here. We showed that being different isn't about being less. It's about adding your own kind of light to the world's rainbow." Victoria Sterling, watching from the sidelines, realized that Sterling Brooks had become more than just a therapeutic riding facility. It had transformed into a beacon of hope, showing the world that true value isn't measured by conventional standards, but by the capacity of the heart to see beauty in all its forms. The legacy of Lucy and Stargazer had grown beyond anything anyone could have imagined. They had shown that sometimes the purest wisdom comes from those who see not with their eyes, but with their hearts, and that love, in its most authentic form, has the power to transform not just individual lives, but the very way we understand potential and possibility. As stars began to appear in the spring sky, the gentle sound of bells drifted across Sterling Brooks, carrying with it the promise that every heart has its own kind of magic, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to see beyond the surface, to the extraordinary beauty that lies within. The story of Lucy and Stargazer had become more than just a tale of a little girl and her blind horse. It had become a testament to the transformative power of unconditional love and the endless possibilities that exist when we dare to see the world through the eyes of the heart. Their journey had shown that true vision comes not from what our eyes can see, but from what our hearts can understand, and that sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from those who teach us to see beauty in all its different forms. As night fell on Sterling Brooks, the magic they had created continued to ripple outward, touching lives and transforming hearts, proving that when love leads the way, there are no limits to what we can achieve together. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.